Hello? Okay, right. Thank you. So, innocent murmurs. Now, regarding this, the name itself, innocent murmurs are functional murmurs, where you may hear murmur, but there not be any organic disease. So, this is a common problem occurs when you find a murmur with the patient and you are not able to diagnose it what it is. So, these are usually flow murmurs, mostly systolic, almost systolic. In few diseases and diastolic flow murmurs are also there. We are going to discuss now. So, and they are not very loud, not more than grade 3. Any palpable murmur is not a
This conference will
innocent
now
murmur,
be recorded.
pathological murmur. So, any murmur more than grade 3 is always a pathological murmur. So, if they are unrelated to heart disease, always mid-systolic, mostly heard at the base of the heart. Base of the heart means aortic and pulmonary area. Apex is the where the mitral area is there. So base means upper side, that is the aortic and pulmonary area. So unrelated to heart disease, always mid-systolic, caused by turbulent flow in the left or right ventricular outflow tract. So it can be heard in the pulmonary area or aortic area, mostly in hyperdynamic circulation, such as anemia, pregnancy, thyrotoxicosis, or fever. So these are the conditions where you may get the functional murmurs. So they are not louder than grade 3. Grade 3 louder means palpable. So any thrill is there means it is not a innocent or functional murmur. And it may vary in the postures also. Lying down, sitting, it may vary. There may accentuate or it may get attenuated. Pansystolic murmurs. Pansystolic, the name itself, audible throughout systole, from first heart sound to second heart sound. They are caused by regurgitation through incompetent atrioventricular valves. That means they are not closing properly. So you may hear in the incompetent atrioventricular valve, that is the MR or TR. So they are caused by regurgitation through incompetent atrioventricular valves. So in MR and TR, you will find pansystolic murmur. Also seen in VSD. The VSD murmur is better heard in between the apex and in the tricuspid area. So in that in between, you will get that pansystolic murmur of VSD. Pansystolic murmur of MR is louder at the apex and radiates into the left axilla. So it is a pansystolic murmur. The jet of blood from the left ventricle goes toward the direction of axilla. That's why even if you inch by inch, if you move towards the axilla, you'll be hearing that murmur. So if the anterior leaflet is problem and only the jet is going backwards, then the murmur can be heard in the interscapular region also. So that is the indication of MR murmur and its radiation. Suppose the aortic stenotic murmur, it is not a pansystolic murmur, it is ejection systolic murmur, diamond, that will be radiated toward the neck. So in the direction of turbulence, the radiation will be there. So MR murmur is best heard by diaphragm. So it is a high pitch murmur in left lateral position at the apex. So at the apex, you may get even the MDM murmur of mitral stenosis or MR murmur has to be heard in the left lateral position. Preferably in MS, if the hand grip or a little walk for a while and then you ask for a little exercise may accentuate these murmur. So left lateral position. So in mitral stenosis, you have to hear with bell. In MR, you have to hear with diaphragm because this murmur is a high-pitched murmur. And that murmur of mitral stenosis is a low-pitched murmur. So best heard with the bell of the diaphragm. So in case of mitral stenosis, bell should be used and the patient should be in the preferably in the left lateral position with a hand grip or preferably a little exercise, then you can auscultate it. So that's how the pansystolic murmur is heard in case of MR and TR and VSD. So it starts from the first heart sound and ends with the second heart sound. Sometimes these heart sounds are merged into that. So the murmurs of TR and VSD are loudest at the lower left sternal edge. I have told you. So left lower sternal edge, if it is better heard, it is not an MR, it is a TR. Similarly, TS also, it is heard best at the left lower end sternal lower edge. So left side, left sternal edge, you will find the murmurs are good, that is of TS and TR. And in VSD, little bit lateral to that, in between the two areas, you will find the better heard is the VSD, that is a ventral septal defect, ventricular septal defect. Inspiration accentuate the murmur of TR. I've told you the TS and TR murmurs and pulmonary murmurs are accentuated by inspiration. Why? Because when the chest expands in inspiration, when the lungs expand in inspiration, it sucks the blood toward the right side of the heart, and more amount of blood enters to the right side and causes accentuation of these murmurs. So inspiration accentuates the murmur of TR. So TR murmur increases. MVP also produces a pansystolic murmur. It's not pansystolic. It happens. It starts after second heart sound, little time after with a click. Then the murmur starts. Rarely it can become pansystolic also. MVP also produces a pansystolic murmur. What is MVP? Mitral valve prolapse means the leaflets of the mitral valve is more longer than needed, and when there is a pressure over it, because they are lengthy, they may give a way and opens. So the blood enters back into the left atria. So in systole, they cannot keep the two leaflets together. So what happens here? With pressure, it may first balloons toward the left atria and gives a way. So when it gives a way, it causes a click followed by murmur. So that is the sign of MVP, a click with murmur. So it may be nearly pansystolic, but it may vary. The click may be little later or in the mid of the systole, and then you're getting a murmur. So may produce a pansystolic murmur, but more commonly prolapse occurs in mid systole, producing a click followed by murmur. So click followed by murmur. Then that click sounds and all, I will give you that CDs of that. You may hear how the click will be and how the murmur will be. That becomes easy. Don't worry for that. If you play that there are two half an hour this thing recordings. If you hear that, that will not be a difficult. What is click? What is murmur? So these are the areas. So pansystolic murmur you can see in mitral regurgitation. So you said the apex, and it is transmitted toward the axilla. So it is starting. So first heart sound to second heart sound, you may not distinguish the sound and murmur. You may get the first and second heart sound will be drowned. And S3 you see, because of rapid ventricular filling, because some of the blood has entered into the left area, which is coming back in diastole. So rapid ventricular filling, then it causes S3. So this is another feature. S3 is present in case of mitral regurgitation. That is, there is a lot of question in mitral stenosis because there is a stenosis. Rapid ventricular filling cannot happen. So S3 never heard in MS. So like this. So mitral valve prolapse. Now here you see first heart sound, second heart sound. Now you see the click here. So three sounds you are getting. This sound, and in the systole one more sound, and a murmur. So this is the feature of mitral valve prolapse. VSD murmur, I will show you where it is. VSD. See, this murmur and this murmur, you see almost equal. Similar. So this is VSD murmur. It's a pansystolic murmur. It is best heard in between the two. See, tricuspid also. See, they're all same, pansystolic murmurs. Because the gradient in the left side is more, you can see the loudness of the murmur also here, and here also you can see that. Now, once the blood is going from left side to right side, in VSD, you get a murmur. But after some time, if suppose the pulmonary arterial hypertension becomes and there is resistance to go toward the right side, the murmur slowly becomes soft and they may disappear. When there is a right to left shunt, Eisenmenger syndrome, where the blood now is coming from right side to left side, that does not produce a murmur. Remember that. So in those cases of VSD, Eisenmenger syndrome, you will find P2 will be loud, P2 will be palpable, and a murmur can be heard in the pulmonary area. But you don't get the murmur of septal defect when there is a reversal of blood. So only clubbing with cyanosis can indicate that this patient may be have VSD, but the murmur is no more present now. Now, diastolic murmurs, early diastolic murmurs. So caused by regurgitation through incompetent aortic and pulmonary valve. When pulmonary and aortic valves doesn't close properly, in the diastole, the blood which has ejected out returns back. So with that, you will get the aortic and pulmonary early diastolic murmur. So they are high-pitched murmur. Though they are diastolic murmur, they are high-pitched. So you have to hear with diaphragm. So they are high-pitched and it starts immediately after second heart sound, fading away in mid-diastole. I will show you the figure of that murmur. So they are high-pitched murmur. It starts immediately in the diastole after second heart sound, fading away in the mid-diastole. So suddenly the blood comes down and the murmur stops. So best heard by diaphragm in expiration when patient lean forward. So in case of aortic regurgitation, left side murmurs are better heard in expiration. So patient should be in expiration held and lean forward. Then you can hear this murmur in a better way. So the EDM of AR radiates from the aortic area to the left external edge. See, the aortic area is not from just, the aortic area is this. So this is the aortic area, this is the pulmonary area, this is the mitral area, and this is the tricuspid area. Now, many of the students in the exam, they are unable to tell where is the aortic area. Then it becomes so bad, so awkward. How to tell a student doesn't know the areas, then how can we expect him to diagnose a disease? So these are very basic. See, this is the aortic, this is the pulmonary, this is the mitral, and this is the tricuspid. Now this aortic area, sometimes this aortic regurgitation murmur, early diastolic murmur, is not heard better here. It may be better heard here at this point. So the aortic area is taken from here to here. It is not just here. So this is like this. Its whole area is treated as an aortic area. So in case of ER, it may be heard better here this, or left external edge is here, somewhere here or here. So this is a big area. So some of the pure frequencies are better heard in the lower down. That is called as Gallivan's phenomena. Gallivan's phenomena, where the high purified frequencies are better heard not in the aortic area but lower down. So that you should know. Okay. So best heard by diaphragm in expiration when patient is lean forward. The EDM of AR radiates from the aortic area to the left external edge. So it is coming down. The blood is coming down, so it radiates lower down. So early diastolic murmurs in the pulmonary regurgitation. Pulmonary murmur is loudest at the pulmonary area. So it may come little lower down also. So that is the pulmonary. So these murmurs on pulmonary side is not that loud, but pulmonary artery is more superficial than aorta. That's why P2 may become palpable when there is pulmonary arterial hypertension. And the sounds are better heard on the pulmonary area than aortic area, because the pulmonary area is little bit superficial than the aorta. So we have discussed this. Now mid-diastolic murmurs. So mid-diastolic murmurs, two things you have to remember is the MS and TS. So mid-diastolic, and one is aortic regurgitation Austin Flint murmur. I will explain that. What is that murmur also? So mid-diastolic murmurs are caused by turbulent flow through the AV valves. So when there is a turbulent flow because of stenosis, mitral or tricuspid stenosis, they start after valve opening. So opening sound. If the valve opens with pressure, it may cause an opening snap. Relatively late after second heart sound. So after second heart sound, it is not very early. It is little late. Second heart sound, then opening snap, then a murmur. The distance between the second heart sound and the opening snap, if it is very small, that means severe MS. If the distance between second heart sound and the opening snap is little longer, that means it is not severe. That is one indication to say that the MS is severe or not. Mitral valve area is 5 square centimeters. Up to 2.5 square centimeters, if it is reduced, no symptoms will develop. If it is up to 3 centimeters reduced, then you may get mild. So if it is still, that is 1.5 square centimeters, it is moderate. If it remains only 1 square centimeters out of 5, then it is severe MS. So the root area of each valve should remember, at least mitral is 5 square centimeters, aorta normal area is 2.5 square centimeters. So MS is the principal cause of MDM, because tricuspid stenosis is not that common. It occurs only in rheumatic heart disease. If there is already there is a mitral stenosis, then it can have tricuspid stenosis also, or congenital tricuspid stenosis, that can happen like that, or in case of bacterial endocarditis can happen like that. But as such, tricuspid stenosis is less common when compared to mitral stenosis. So mitral stenosis is the principal cause of mid-diastolic murmur. Best heard at the apex using bell in left lateral position. If you don't do in the exam, then you are not an appropriate candidate to pass through. So every patient, if they have this problem of mitral stenosis or mitral regurgitation, it has to be auscultated in left lateral, otherwise you will miss it. Sometimes in supine position, you don't get the murmur. But once you tilt it, it becomes very clear audible. So this finding you should know. Of course, the dynamic auscultation, I will tell you 5 minutes about that. So best heard at the apex using the bell in lateral position. So mid-diastolic murmur, increased flow across the MB occurs in VSD and MR, may produce MDM. So this is just like functional murmur. In VSD, what happens? More amount of blood is coming round and round. So more amount of blood enters into the left ventricle from the left atria, because there is circuit, left ventricle to right ventricle, going to the lungs, coming back into the left ventricle, going again to the right ventricle. So the circuit is there. So because of that, more amount of blood is flowing through the mitral area, though the 5 square centimeter of area is not reduced, still you will get an MDM. That's a flow murmur like thing. So in VSD and MR also, in MR what happened? The stroke volume goes into the aorta. Some of the blood goes back because the valve is not closing properly in the mitral region or the mitral valve. So blood is going back into the left atria. Again, that blood is coming back. So it produces a MDM. That is also one functional murmur. And in severe AR, what happens when the blood is coming back in aortic regurgitation, because the valve is dilated and it's not closing properly, during systole, amount of blood goes. And when the valve cannot close in diastole, some of the blood is coming back. So that coming back blood is causing early diastolic murmur of one thing. Another thing, that flow jet falls on the mitral valve leaflet, anterior valve leaflet, and it tries to close that valve unnecessarily with the pressure. So that produces a mitral stenosis like picture, functional. That causes a mid-diastolic murmur, and it's called as Austin Flint murmur. I will explain you in the picture here. See, this is the left ventricle. In case of AR, the blood ejected out, and some of the blood comes back. And while coming back, this is the anterior mitral leaflet. So it will falling on this and closing this wall like this. So this becomes like a mitral stenosis. So you'll get a murmur here. That murmur is called as the Austin Fleet murmur. Now, one more thing happens in MR. In MR, what happens? The blood goes like this also, like this also. So more amount of blood is coming back into the left ventricle. Again, there also you will get a flow murmur. So you will get in MR, you can get a diastolic murmur. So that could be functional murmur. If the pre-systolic accentuation is there, then you can label that patient as MSMR. Both is present, mitral stenosis and mitral regurgitation, if there is pre-systolic accentuation. But if it is not there, only in MDM, it is coming soft, then it is because of flow murmur, which is, so in case of MR, you may get a mid-diastolic murmur also. And in AR, you may get early diastolic murmur because of return of blood coming, as well as this valve goes up and closes the valve to a certain extent and causing a functional turbulence here. That also gives an MDM. I think it is clear to you, I think so. So this is the MR, what happens? A large amount of blood is coming here because in systole, the blood has gone this side as well as this side. So this increased amount of blood and blood coming from the pulmonary veins, these are the blood coming from pulmonary veins, they flow back here, causing an MDM. Now, right side also, you can have the similar, if it is a tricuspid stenosis. So MDM at the lower sternal edge border, accentuated by inspiration, Cadvallos sign. So when inspiration is taken, the murmur increases. That indicates that it is a TS murmur. So how will you differentiate from MS murmur, MS and TS? The MS murmur will be at the apex, and it is louder or get accentuated when you make the patient on the left lateral side, or little exercise, or hand grip. A little hand grip, squeezing, it may increase the sound of the murmur. In case of TS, the murmur will be at the left sternal edge, and it will not, what you call, accentuated by left lateral position, but on inspiration it increases. So if you ask him to take a deep inspiration, the murmur accentuates or increases. That indicates it's a TS murmur. Sometimes you may have MS and TS together also. So most of the time when you diagnose mitral stenosis, you feel so happy, excited, you ignore about the tricuspid stenosis, especially for postgraduates. It will be trap for them. They ignore the tricuspid area and with respiration. They don't bother about it. So when you diagnose TS or MR, whatever it may be, the mitral valve problem, you should also check the tricuspid valve. Should also check the aortic valve. Should also check for pH. Of course, pulmonary valve hardly affected by rheumatic, but it can be possible. But you have to check for the pulmonary arterial hypertension, which is very common. So these are the things you have to look for. So MDM also seen in condition that increase the tricuspid flow. I've told you in ASD, the flow increases. Tricuspid regurgitation, same thing happens what you see in MR. So these flow murmurs in ASD also, because there is some of the blood is coming from left atria to right atria and right atria to right ventricle. So that increased amount of flow in ASD, you may get a flow murmur. So in ASD, the typical finding is second heart sound is wide and fixed split. It doesn't vary with respiration. In inspiration expiration, the distance remains same, and you can also hear a flow murmur in the tricuspid region. If pH develops, then of course you can have the auscultation things of pulmonary artery hypertension. Now, pre-systolic murmur. Pre-systolic means before the S1. Systole starts from S1 to S2. So pre-systolic accentuation, pre-systolic murmur is very important in case of mitral stenosis. So if the patient in sinus rhythm, when the atria contracts, it will cause a pre-systolic accentuation. In a normal person, when atria contracts in the stiff ventricle, it causes a fourth heart sound. The third and fourth heart sound are never heard in case of mitral stenosis. Why? Because there is a decreased flow. So rapid filling causes the third heart sound. Atrial contraction is different causes fourth. Here, even if it is causes contraction, it is not able to produce fourth heart sound. Instead, it produces a accentuation in the murmur. The murmur becomes louder, pre-systolic accentuation. So in MS and TS, atrial systole produces a pre-systolic murmur immediately before the first heart sound. Pre-systolic accentuation. That is the feature of, because you have seen many of these mid-diastolic murmurs in many conditions. So how about you only in MS? All mid-diastolic murmur are not due to MS. It may be due to other reasons also, but pre-systolic accentuation is taking place mostly attributes to the mitral stenosis. Or if it is on the right side, in the tricuspid area, it indicates tricuspid stenosis. So MDM accentuation indicates there is, with atrial kick, the flow is increasing. So murmur is perceived as pre-systolic accentuation of MDM. I've told you, MDM, mid-diastolic murmur with pre-systolic accentuation. This is the feature of mitral stenosis. Pre-systolic murmurs are generated by atrial systole. So if there is atrial fibrillation, there is no question of pre-systolic accentuation even in MS or TS also, because atria is not contracting with power. So this pre-systolic accentuation of murmur of MDM disappears if the person have AF. So they do not occur with atrial fibrillation. Okay. Pre-systolic murmur. So we'll see the mitral regurgitation. So where is that? Yeah, here. See, this is the first heart sound and second heart sound, opening snap with mid-diastolic murmur. Now see here, pre-systolic accentuation. This is the systole starting from S1 to S2. This is the opening snap and this is the MDM. So MDM1 continues, this is a continuation. So MDM continues and they will get a pre-systolic accentuation. So this is the feature of mitral stenosis, pre-systolic accentuation. So MDM, then increasing, pre-systolic accentuation. Then you get the S1. So S1, this is S2, not this one. This is S2. The sharp is the opening snap. Opening snap is heard only when the valves are pliable, they are moving. If they open with a force, then you can hear it. So forcible, generally opening of the valve doesn't produce sound. But in mitral stenosis, lot of blood is there in the atria and the valve open, they try to come early into the diastole. So there is a little pressure over that. Under pressure, the valve opens, producing this opening snap and mid-MDM, and then it followed by pre-systolic accentuation. This ends the diastole. Similarly, tricuspid, if you see. Tricuspid stenosis, here you are getting a MDM and pre-systolic accentuation is not heard because it is not that of pressure. So it can be expected in case of tricuspid stenosis also. Now this one thing of the normal cardiac cycle, the relations you should know. See, this is the ECG, P wave, QRS complex. So this is the electrical systole. Electrical systole is not coinciding with the ventricle systole. Ventricle systole starts just when the S wave is coming down, it is starting. So this is the pressure in the left ventricle pressure systole, and it is occurring like this in the QT interval. So from here to here is the QT interval. So this is the time taken for the left ventricle to have its systole and coming down. Now what happens to aortic pressure? Aortic pressure, diastolic pressure nearly 80. So this is the back pressure coming from the small vessels. So it will have, but in case of left ventricle pressure in diastole, it is very small, 5 millimeter or something like that. So here the aortic pressure, diastolic pressure is this much, and during systole both becomes equal. The left ventricle and the aortic pressure equalizes in systole. So jet of blood comes out and the aortic diastolic pressure remains same, but in the left ventricle, the pressure falls. As it falls, there will be a diastole starts and the blood starts filling into the left ventricle for the next cycle. And this left atrial pressure is nothing but JVP. This is the A wave. Atrial contraction. Before the last kick, what you get pre-systolic, either S4 or pre-systolic murmur, what you are hearing with pressure, the left ventricle fills, and due to Starling's law, you have understood that the muscles will be enlarged and they contract with force. So this atrial contraction, atrial relaxation, there will be negative pressure here, X descent, then ventricle filling takes place in the, here the filling takes place. So atrial contraction, atrial relaxation, and atrial filling takes place, and atrial emptying takes place. So this is the JVP, A wave and V wave, X descent, Y descent. So in diastole, the left atrial pressure and the left ventricle pressure becomes equal, because when the valves open, it is equal. Now what happens in the cardiac cycle, you see? This is the first heart sound. And this is the second heart sound, generally having a split. So you may get a click in case of AS, you will get a click. And mid-systolic click in case of MVP, mitral valve plus, mid-systolic click followed by a murmur. This is the opening snap which is seen in TS or MS, mitral stenosis or tricuspid stenosis. So these are the sounds you have to concentrate on the sounds. So this is the first heart sound, single sound. Sometimes it may be split also. In case of RBBB, you can see or in case of ASD, some little. Now our ears appreciate only if the two sounds having a difference of more than 0.02 seconds. If it is less than that, even two sounds becomes a single sound for our ear. So you have to be more than 0.02 seconds. So this is the single sound of mitral and tricuspid valve, but here pulmonary and aortic and pulmonary have a split. So this is the sounds you have to concentrate. Normal sounds will be first heart sound, lub and dub. There may be two sounds in the pulmonary and aortic area. If you go there, you may hear the two sounds split. Especially on inspiration, the split increases, and expiration it becomes single. So this is the thing happens with the heart sounds, and this is the opening clicks, because it is in the systole, and it is the mid-systolic click, and diastole it is called as opening snap. So these are the additional three sounds you have to concentrate. Now fourth heart sound, it comes here before the first heart sound, fourth heart sound, because of atrial contraction. So fourth heart sound, just before the first heart sound, second heart sound is split, and you get a third heart sound. So third, then this is the place for fourth heart sound, then first heart sound, then second, like that. So this is the heart sounds, and this is the clicks, and this is the left atrial pressures and the ventricular pressures. So this picture is given in your book. Try to read and understand these things. Now what is continuous murmur? Now generally students think that continuous murmur means it is heard throughout systole and diastole. The exact definition of continuous murmur is that any murmur starting in the systole and entering into the diastole, that is continuous murmur. Not necessarily it should be present throughout the systole and diastole. Sometimes it may not be, but any murmur which is starting in the systole and passing into the diastole is a continuous murmur. So heard during systole and diastole, uninterrupted by valve closure. There is no valve there. So usually it occurs because of some connection between the left and right side with a larger gradient. For example, patent ductus arteriosus. So the aortic pressure is always more than the pulmonary pressure. So throughout the cycle. So what happens here, from the aorta, the blood goes in the systole will be louder, and it enters into the diastole also, because the aortic pressure is always bigger than the pulmonary pressure. So in that case, you will find that a continuous murmur. So commonest cause is PDA, heard over the base of the heart. I have told you base means upper side. So left or right. So that is the base of the heart. So heard best about the there. So commonest cause PD heard over the base of the heart. And it is a high pitch murmur, better heard with the diaphragm. So caused by flow from high pressure aorta to low pressure pulmonary artery. It's also heard in any fistulas. Arteriovenous fistula, you can hear that murmur. Any trauma, arteriovenous fistula is formed, or for your this thing dialysis, the fistula is formed. There also you will get a continuous murmur. So also heard in rupture of sinus valsalva. I've told you what is sinus valsalva. The three cusps of the aortic valve have opening of the aortic sinus. Those cups may enlarge and forms an aneurysm. If that aneurysm ruptures into the right atria, that becomes a shunt. So from left side aortic valve to the right atria, opening will be there. That will cause a shunt. So that also causes a continuous murmur. See here, you can see here the continuous murmur. It is more during the systole end, and in the diastole also it is like. So this is the continuous murmur starting in the systole and going into the diastole. So this is the base of the heart. So you are hearing the continuous murmur here. Now you can see some of the pictures. Ejection systolic murmur of aortic stenosis and pulmonary stenosis. A diamond shaped murmur actually. It will be like this, but in your book the shape is given like this more accurately. So it starts after the first heart sound and ends before the second heart sound, and you can hear the heart sound clearly. It is not merging, but here in case of pansystolic murmur, this heart sound may merge. So this is the pansystolic murmur. This is ejection systolic murmur. This click and murmur, the thin line you are seeing, the click and murmur, it is the feature of mitral valve prolapse. Early diastolic murmur, the blood is returning from the aorta into the left ventricle or from the pulmonary artery into the right ventricle. Early diastolic murmur, aortic or pulmonary regurgitations. This is the mid diastolic opening snap followed by murmur, pre-systolic accentuation. This is the feature of MS and TS. Friction rubs. So this is a feature of pericardial infusion, pericarditis. You will get this is a very superficial, scratchy noise. Something very superficial, something getting rubbed to each other. So that is the feature of that. Occurs in pericarditis. It is best heard in expiration with patient leaning forward. It is a high pitch scratching noise. It can be heard in any part of the cardiac cycle and over the part of the precordium, over the heart, whether it's systole or diastole, there is no relation. It may be in part of diastole or in the systole, you will hear this. So that is the friction rub seen in case of pericarditis and pericardial effusion. I think it is not here. Okay. Venous hum. There is some type of continuous low pitch noise heard in the neck in engorged veins. So usually in young individuals. So those are not murmurs. It is venous hum. I think in pediatrics you will come to know that continuous venous hum at the base of the heart reflects hyperkinetic jugular venous flow. More amount of blood flow is coming on the right side. So the congested veins in the neck may produce a venous hum, common in children and usually disappears if the child is lying flat. So this is nothing to do with the murmur, it's a benign thing. Now, dynamic auscultation. Sometimes what happens, these murmurs are not very prominent, not louder, not easily heard. So to accentuate that, we do some bedside maneuvers by which the murmurs become louder. That is called as dynamic auscultation. I've told you, in case of MS, if the patient is on the left lateral position with a hand grip or before the little exercise or little walk, that accentuate the MDM. So that is dynamic auscultation. So with some maneuvers, the murmurs becomes more prominent. So diagnostic accuracy can be enhanced by the performance of simple bedside maneuvers. So simple bedside maneuvers can increase the murmurs. So right-sided events increases in intensity with inspiration and decreases with expiration. So if you ask the patient to take deep inspiration, that is dynamic auscultation. You are doing some maneuvers over there. So right-sided murmurs is increased with inspiration. Carvalho's side. Left-sided events have opposite effect. They become less prominent in case of inspiration. So in expiration, they are more prominent. So dynamic auscultation, murmurs that increase with LV afterload, such as hand grip or vasopressors. So sometimes even you can give some vasopressors. So MR, VSD, AR, they may become louder. So murmurs with increase with left ventricle afterload. So afterload means the vessels, if it is stiff or vasoconstriction on the arterial side, that it causes by hand grip or vasopressor, MR, VSD, and AR murmur all get increased. So intensity of these murmurs decreases with vasodilatation. So easily blood is coming out. So if a vasodilators are given, that murmurs becomes slower or lighter. So the murmur of AS may be well transmitted to the apex. I've told you that is Galliverdin effect or Galliverdin phenomena. So if the aortic area in higher classes, you will learn about this Galliverdin phenomena. Left lateral position, S1 will be better heard, S3 will be better heard, S4 will be better heard from LV. So LV sounds are better heard in left lateral position. So if you want to hear S3, S4, if the patient's condition allows you to do that, then S1, S3, S4 are better heard in left lateral position. Opening snap is also of the mitral stenosis can be better heard in the left lateral position. MVP click murmur also increases. Austin Flynn murmur of AR increases. So left lateral position here, if you hear, these murmurs may get accentuated. So these are all the things happens with respiration. I've told you, right side murmurs are increased, left side murmurs are little less louder. So they become more prominent in expiration. Valsalva maneuver. What is this Valsalva maneuver? If you close your mouth and nose and strain down, that is Valsalva. Or blowing in a sphygmomanometer, remove the handcuff and blow it with that tube to the diastolic pressure. That gives you blowing of a balloon, also causes Valsalva maneuver. So what is Valsalva maneuver? We should know. So with Valsalva maneuver, what happens? So most murmur decreases. Only two murmurs increases. One is hypertrophic obstructive cardiomyopathy or mitral valve prolapse. The two murmurs we get accentuated, all other murmurs go down with Valsalva maneuver. And so with the position of on standing. On standing, all murmurs decreases. Only two murmurs increase. So if you are diagnosing MVP or hypertrophic obstructive cardiomyopathy, these two murmurs increases. So with this, you can have this distinction. So that's why they are dynamic auscultation. VPB, that is ventricular premature beat. So when ventricular premature beat, see the name itself, premature beat, means this beat occurs when there is not of much diastolic filling, small amount of diastolic filling, and a weaker impulse is generated. But after that, because it was premature, the second beat have a longer diastole, more filling. So the second beat will have a higher stroke volume. So what you get thumb beat to a patient is not the premature beat. It is the beat after premature which becomes forcible, which the patient himself also feel, and you may feel the forcible beat after a premature beat because of longer duration of timings. So murmurs originating at normal or stenotic similar valves increase in the cardiac cycle after a premature, ventricular premature beat. Or in the cycle after a long cycle length in AF. In AF also, one is a small filling, another will be larger filling. By contrast, systolic murmurs due to AV valve regurgitation do not change. Regurgitation murmurs do not change. So other murmurs, such as AS murmur, will increase. So this is about the VPCs, and if you are hearing, by chance you are getting multiple ectopics to the patient. Exercise. Exercise, murmurs due to blood flow across normal or obstructed valves become louder with both isotonic and submaximal isometric hand grip exercise. So in hand grip exercise, ask them the patient to make a fist with a 30% of his maximum force. So like that. So murmurs due to blood flow across normal or obstructed valves, PSMS, become louder with both isotonic and submaximal isometric hand grip. So any exercise or hand grip exercise. So murmurs of MR, VSD, AR also increase with hand grip exercise. However, the murmur of HOCM after decreases. So these are some of the things by which dynamic auscultation, you still, if you have a doubt, you can take the help of the dynamic auscultation and you can come to a final conclusion. Okay. I think I should stop here. May not. I saw some students are leaving, so I think it is taxing to your brain. So from here, I have to start my list. Each disease, I will explain each disease separately as well also, such that when you have a patient.